G'day guys and welcome, my name is Michael and I am the DeadAussieGamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today's video we are going to be talking about critical mistakes made in combat. Now listen, a lot of people have asked me recently about how I run combat and how I roleplay, and look, I've made a video already, which you can find in the link below, about cinematic combat, and we're going to be touching on a few of those points today, but after having these discussions, I realized that there's a lot of things to be said about mistakes that people commonly make while they are playing role-playing games and engaging in combat. So today we're going to be focusing on that. So the gloves are coming off as we look at some of these don'ts when it comes to combat. Number one, don't consider combat and roleplay as separate entities. Don't do that. For me, that is one of the worst things you can do for yourself, for the players, for the GM, is to think for whatever reason that if you are in combat, you suddenly can't roleplay, or that you shouldn't roleplay, because there are numbers, there are dice, there are things that we're doing all the time. It's so chaotic. We need to get through combat as quickly as possible. Don't take too long. It's this other guy's turn next. It gets hectic, it gets wild, and we kind of lose ourselves when it comes to the narrative. We lose the illusion. We lose that sense of story when it comes to trying to mechanically figure ourselves out. But that's not the way it has to be. And for me, there's a way better way to handle combat that both embraces roleplay, but at the same time, nourishes that efficiency in combat to allow us to take the actions we need to without, going into a full-on thespianic speech. I see before me a giant. Don't worry, I shall save the villagers by slaying the mighty beast with mine mighty axe. No, you don't need to go into that, right? Here is how you can marry combat with roleplay. Number one, make notes. Seriously, make notes. The more notes you have on hand, and I mean this, doesn't matter if you're a spellcaster, doesn't matter if you're a rogue or a fighter class or whatever, make notes and keep a small cheat sheet handy at all times. Any game you're in, if you have that cheat sheet, it means you're spending less time Googling up or even flipping through the book to find the things you need. Just keep it nice, neat, and handy, so that you can always refer to it. That way, when it comes to combat, it's usually a case of, I take my sword out and I slash him in the neck. 17. Now, I don't need to go, I'm going to hit him with my sword. I roll a 17, plus my 4, plus my 3, carry the 7. Waste of time. If I've got, say, power attack as a skill, here's my attack without power attack, here's my attack with power attack. Here's my damage without it, here's my damage with it. Keep good notes. Good notes means you spend less time worrying about that sort of stuff. So, minimizing the mechanics, step one. Step two, the beginning of every single one of your turns must be a statement that acknowledges your place or the place of the things around you in the story. What does that mean? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that initiative has begun and the 5 goblins are attacking our group. Well, the person who starts initiative says, well, this is a fine mess you've gotten us into. Okay, I take out my dagger, and I try to figure out which one of these guys is probably the ringleader. The GM turns and says, you can notice that one of them has a headdress made of bird feathers. Aha. I take my dagger out and I throw it at the guy with the headdress. 17. All right, the dagger, this is where the GM comes in, the dagger flies through the air and strikes the goblin in the chest. That's 7 damage. All right, with 7 damage, the blood pours out of his wound, but he's still standing. He shakes his shaman stick. Get them! Suddenly, you are in a roleplay combat, right? Reacting to things is important, and acknowledging is important. And those are the 2 things that you need to do. So, I hadn't brought up reacting yet, but I'm going to do that in a second. But acknowledging where you are in this space, taking the moment to go, this is what's just happened. This is my character's response to that. This is what's happened. Which then goes to our second step, react. Now, we have a dissonance with our characters. We don't feel what they feel. We don't, we're not injured when they get injured. We don't, we're not afraid when they're afraid. It's important to take those moments to acknowledge our characters' emotions and feelings, as well as their reactions to things, even during combat. Let's say that the wizard casts a fireball spell in the center of these goblins and 3 of them are killed. Then the barbarian takes their turn. The barbarian might start his turn by saying he shields his eyes as the flames explode in front of him. Oh my god! Where the hell was that when we were fighting the giant? The wizard then has a chance to respond. Well, I only just learned this spell. I'm thinking about calling it the Flaming Flower. Well, I just call it Fireball. Right? Suddenly you have a dialogue. You have a little quipped thing going on with the other members of the group. And it works in two ways. Number one is it continues to keep you immersed in the game. And two, it allows the other player to feel acknowledged. Because honestly, that's one of the most important things you can do in this game. It's one of the kindest, and I mean this, in every sense of the word, one of the kindest things you can do in a role-playing game is to acknowledge in character, in game, the contributions or the actions of your fellow teammates. That's seriously it. And it makes for really good roleplay. It keeps you guys engaged in it. Now, if you are a brand new player, and like I said, someone who may not necessarily be as familiar with the game, then it can be forgiven if you don't use these. But again, if you are someone who is familiar with the game and are very proficient in it, reacting and acknowledging where you are in this space shouldn't be difficult. The more you can cut off the mechanical speak and the more you can introduce the narrative speech, the more you can keep your turns in a reasonable amount of time and still get a ton of roleplay out of it. So that's critical mistake one. Roleplay and combat are not separate. You can do it in moderation. You can't get rid of combat entirely. You can't get rid of the mechanics. You can't get rid of the numbers. Nor should you be getting rid of all the roleplay either. Okay? Now, the second critical mistake that people make in combat, the second big and critical mistake that I see so many times, is the idea of me thinking. It's me turn, it's me action, it's my time to shine, and I should be doing all of these things. Well, while that is true, while it is of course your turn, to only think that the answer to any solution that you might be chasing will be written on your character sheet is a fallacy. It might be, right? What does a barbarian want to do? I hit things with my sword. Sure, I want to do the most amount of damage. Fantastic. But the answer to what you might be trying to do isn't necessarily going to be there. There are 4 elements to the game. There is your character, there are your teammates, there is your enemies, and there is the environment around you. Interacting with each of these things during combat is so important, and it is a huge disservice to yourself if you miss out on those opportunities. I have had some amazingly beautiful moments where I have teamed up with allies. Not just your barbarian who picks up the gnome and throws them, but actual tangible ways that we have mingled spells, had coordinated attacks, moved at different times during the initiative so that we can maximize how we move, signaled retreats to get into better positions, and more and more and more of this, right? There are so many ways that you can engage with combat that aren't just written on your character sheet. For me, one of my biggest warning bells is when a person turns around to me and says, I don't know what to do, and have their nose buried in their character sheet. It's, for me, just like, well, where are you? What's around you? I'm in a dungeon. Yep, cool. What's in this dungeon? There's the stone corridors. Yep, cool, fantastic. There's several doors. Yep, okay, cool. What do you want to do? I want to open one of those doors. Whoa, okay, hang on. Because, of course, everyone knows that you don't want to go straight into a door. Maybe you want to listen to the door first. Maybe you want to kind of like push your ear and go, oh, hey, I think I hear running water. Maybe there's something in there that we might be able to use to our advantage. Or maybe there's a monster in there. Well, you didn't hear a monster. Lots of these things change the flow of combat. And that's done without using what's on your character sheet. Don't get too fixated on the me element to your turn. Remember, your team is also a part of it, and you can coordinate, work with, and speak with them. Your your enemies have motivations. They have reasons for being there and what they're doing, why they're in combat, and of course, what their particular strategy is. If they are, for example, whenever I deal with ambush predators, especially animals, on occasion I'll have the group wander a bit too close to a recent kill. And then the predators suddenly turn on the players. Now, the thing is that they're just after protecting their kill. If the players turn literally around and give them a wide enough berth, Predators don't give two damns about them. It's all about that mentality. It's all about realizing and recognizing that you have a foe who is a part of that world. Now, albeit this is going to entirely be based on your GM, and your GM might just be like, yep, every single thing in my world fights to the death because you walked in front of it. We're using Pokemon rules, people. That's fine. If that's the case, then, well, you may not have that option. The third is, of course, the environment. The environment has come in handy in so many of my games. If you've watched me play, you know that is one of the biggest things that I lean on, is being able to pick up a wagon that someone had drawn on the map that my GM is using and say, yup, cool, wagon is getting, boom, slammed on your head. Or, climbing to the top of a large tower with a very large metal rod and creating a lightning rod, which I am now going to use to blow up this particular ship. Whatever it is, you can use the environment to your advantage as well. So if you find yourself in a situation where, let's say you're a barbarian and someone is immune to physical damage, or you're playing a sorcerer and someone's got fire immunity, whatever, there is always going to be another angle for you to look at. Let's say, in the very rare situation, you have absolutely nothing to contribute. Your me zone is at 0. It's flatlined. Well, here's another few things you can do when you're playing your game. Number 1, continue to acknowledge the people around you. Try to roleplay your character figuring stuff out. By you actually saying in character, hey guys, listen, all I've got left are fire spells. I don't know if I can help. The group is now brought into your thinking process. All right, well, if it's immune to fire, how about smoke? Can you light a fire over there and maybe fan the smoke over here? If it has difficulty seeing, it might help us out a little bit. Oh, yeah, I can totally do that. All of a sudden, you're bringing everyone into the problem-solving skill and working together, right? It may not necessarily be a more direct way of handling your combat, but it will allow your players some chance to help you out. So, react. Number 2, if there is absolutely nothing for you to do, then what you need to do is be able to support your other fellow teammates by ensuring that they're protected. Another good thing you can do is always making sure that, yeah, okay, cool, that we've got 4 other points of entry. Look, I'm going to just grab some rope and I'm going to tie the handle of the door down. I just want to make sure that no one comes in through them hearing all the signs of battle. It's like, okay, cool. I'm going to put my ear to the ground and I want to hear the sounds of the landscape to see if there's anyone approaching, right? All of these little things help by keeping the group safe. It also helps because it may inspire the narrative to continue further. Whatever it is, you are still contributing, even if it's not a numerical contribution. In my opinion, and you can quote this should go on a shirt, hit points don't equate to fun. Okay? How many hit points the enemy has, how many hit points you have, how they relate to each other, that's not where the fun is, right? The fun is in the world, in the story, and in the narrative. And just continue to be a part of it, and you are contributing in combat. All right. Now, the third and final critical mistake that I see people make, and this one's a rough one, so I do apologize if anyone feels called out on it, but giving up for me is one of those absolutely atrocious things. I've never had it happen well. It's always been something that has just been animosity and anger and negativity. Let me explain. Retreating, for example, because you're fighting something that's either too strong, maybe you've approached something while you didn't have enough resources to handle it. Whatever the reason, when players are on a downbeat, one of the most critical mistakes they can make is just outrightly giving up. I'm not contributing to this anymore because I don't want to. Or my character retreats by themselves. I'm going to full round action away because I am a wizard out of spells and I can't do anything further. I am gone. Goodbye. Now, giving up in combat for me is a massive mistake. I have had a number of games now. As many of you know, I run games with kids, where my kids will spend 4 hours building characters, which, is fine, they have a lot of fun doing it, but they become so emotionally invested in these characters that the only thing they think of is how to keep them alive. How do I maximize my AC? How do I make sure that I've always got a contingency plan to keep me safe? How do I always know that whenever things go bad, how do I know where my escape is so I can run away? That, for me, is a character built on the premise of giving up. The character is designed for their own self-survival. Now, I don't fault people for wanting their characters to live. That's great. It's great that people are invested. I don't fault people on being able to turn and say, well, now's the time to run away. Again, knowing how to either change your battle environment or knowing how to, sort of come and regroup yourself, both are very valuable skills. But it's when people give up, no communications, no thought to the group or how you're doing in combat, just pure and unbridled, nope, I'm not contributing, sorry guys. That's the mistake. Now, for me, outrightly, if you want to do that, you need to make sure that everyone is on board with it. Start by having the reaction or take that moment to interact before you run and say, look guys, I think we can't handle this. I've got nothing left in the tank. Someone might suggest you to do something. Oh, that's okay. Listen, I've got a potion in my backpack. Can you hand it to me? Yeah, absolutely. Move action to pull it out of you. Standard action to force it down your throat. You are now helping someone else, right? Hey guys, we're being attacked from behind as well. I'm gonna head down this sewer and see if there's a way out through there. Actually, can you hold off on that for a minute? We need to make sure that the cleric gets down there first because he's about to die, and if he dies, we have no healing. Okay, cool. I'll grab him and I'll pull him down and push him down first because I can last a little bit longer. These are how you retreat or how you pull back without compromising the group. If you just give up, right? In my opinion, and this might be harsh, get up, go to the kitchen, make yourself a sandwich, have a drink, right? Then go home. Because honestly, if you're not invested enough to keep playing when everyone else is playing, then I don't want you around. I mean, it's horrible. It's a terrible thing to say, but it's very different from a retreat, in my opinion. It's literally a I don't care what you guys are doing moment for me, and I hate it. I hate it when that's the mentality. I love it when it's a strategy. I love it when it's a team-based thing. I absolutely love it when it's a desperation thing. Like everyone's kind of in that point. But when someone palms off the I can't do anything, therefore I'm not playing, that for me is like, well, yeah, you're not trying. That's awful. It's awful. All right. To pick us up on a bit of a high note, I do want to say this. I think one final critical mistake that a person can do in combat, more than anything, is relying on other people to roleplay for you. And what I mean by this is there's a lot of scenarios I've seen where people will handle combat and they'll be super excited about a particular strategy or a particular series of skills and powers that they're making interact that causes something amazing to happen. I love doing it. I love feeling clever because of it. And whenever I do stuff like that, I don't expect the other players to react to it or to do anything at all. But I suppose for me, I search for my own reaction. I react to my own big, glorious moments. I maybe prefix them with this cool one-liner, or I'll maybe have in case this doesn't work, tell my wife I love them. Have that moment with yourself, with someone, right? Have your moment in your me time, I guess. Because for me, those moments can be fantastic. They can be absolutely great. Don't wait for someone to validate you or your character. Do it yourself. Take those moments to validate yourself. Make yourself feel good. Make your character feel good about themselves. Because at the end of the day, we make things that we love. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. This was a pretty long video, but if you are at this point in time, then I greatly appreciate you. Do, of course, as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, bang on that bell if you wish to be notified if we make any more of these videos. Come visit us on Patreon, where I break down the video even further in a small little podcast. And come visit us on Twitch at twitch.tv/DeadAussieGamer, where you can watch a lot of my live plays, some of my other shows, and DeadAussieGamer Live on YouTube, where you can see all my live productions there. Till next time, guys, as always, from me to you, game hard or die trying. Bye, everyone.